fact, both local San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
What's good, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the second premiere of Liquidation's Dilemma, the long-awaited second premiere of Liquidation's Dilemma. For those of you that don't know, Liquidation's Dilemma is my series, and more importantly, my way, of documenting dead, dying, and defunct retail companies. Today's premiere is none other than LifeWay Christian Stores. For those of you that don't know, LifeWay Christian Stores was once a branch of LifeWay Christian Resources, in which that company still exists as a brand today, and it even offers a website available to go purchase products and merchandise from its website. But they no longer offer physical retail stores within its portfolio, and I was curious as to why that is. In this video, we're going to learn all about that. So if you've ever been wondering what happened to LifeWay Christian Stores, not that many of you have been, but if you have, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's premiere of Liquidation's Dilemma featuring LifeWay Christian Stores. LifeWay Christian Stores. What? Most of you guys are probably asking yourself, what is it? I've never heard of it. Where's it at? Because I was asking myself the same exact thing. I'd never been to a LifeWay store, I'd never seen one, I'd never heard of one, and only when I went to film its abandoned locations had I ever even looked up and familiarized myself with what it was. So to save you guys the hardship of having to find out all of that, this video is going to explain LifeWay in all of its Christian store operations. And it all starts with a man named Dr. J. M. Frost. All he had to his disposal was a desk, a piece of ripped up newspaper, and some money he had borrowed from his wife. He was also considered to have a blessing. He was able to create what is now known as LifeWay Christian Resources today. However, the organization was originally created in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was recognized by the name Southern School Board of the Southern Baptist Convention. Yes, I'm not kidding, that is the exact name. Sunday School Board of the Southern Baptist Convention. The name stuck as the one to describe the company and its operations for over 100 years of its life. In 1925, the company introduced its first physical retail location that went by the name of Baptist Bookstore. Throughout its operations, the company expanded across several regions with the services it offered. According to the company's website, quote, the name no longer encompassed the wide array of products and services the company offered, nor did it reflect the broadening scope of the organization's mission, end quote. Thus sparking a name change in 1971, and LifeWay was officially born. The name originated from the Bible verse John 14, verse 6, reading, quote, I am the way, the truth, and the life, end quote. It wasn't until 1996, though, when the Southern Board officially renamed itself to adopt the LifeWay name, and shortly afterward, all retail locations that were previously known as the Baptist Bookstore were changed to LifeWay. The sales policies adopted by the new company were strictly based on those beliefs of Christian practices, meaning that if you were an author or merchandise seller who violated any of these guidelines, LifeWay would cease all sales of those products immediately. It's pretty strict, but it's understandable. This is a company that had gotten itself to become one of the largest mainstream retailers in America that sold Christian products and merchandise. In February of 2006, LifeWay announced its new president and CEO, Tom Rayner, who would be replacing James Draper. In 2017, LifeWay departed its Nashville headquarters, leaving Sullivan and Draper Tower, who were located side by side, to be imploded in 2018. Rayner announced that he would be retiring from LifeWay on August 29th of 2018, though he remained in his position within 1 year timeline of the company finding its replacement. However, it seemed as if Rayner knew about the impending demise of the physical brick-and-mortar style of retail for the company and resigned from his position 6 months prior than he originally stated. The reasoning for his retirement is unknown, and it may not have been completely based on the decline of physical retail stores, but one can only presume that it was a contributing factor. In January of 2019, only 1 month before Rayner would spring a surprise early resignation, LifeWay announced that it would make cuts to its staff and close a portion of its 170 existing retail locations. The end of LifeWay as a physical retailer was rapidly approaching. Brad Wagoner was named acting president on February 28th of 2019. Only 2 months after its initial closure announcement, LifeWay stated that it would be increasing the number of closures to cover and effectively close all 170 stores. According to LifeWay, the reason to cease all of its physical retail operations was due to lower sales and the need to shift the focal point towards an online shopping model. Thus, the beginning of the end, as liquidation sales began at all LifeWay stores. This wouldn't be the only loss that the company suffered, however. The COVID-19 pandemic has left a huge effect on the retail industry, and LifeWay was no different. In early 2021, Sullivan Tower was put up for sale due to the rise of remote working conditions. In addition, World Changers, which was a part of LifeWay Student Ministries and separate from retail, was forced to cease operations due to the pandemic as well. In the end, the only way to shop with LifeWay is by utilizing their website and other online services. It's really a shame to see another physical retailer bite the dust in favor of online services, but as you all probably know, it's just become a norm that seems to be the main cause of business failure as of late. Now, me personally, I've never shopped at LifeWay stores, and it is understandable as to why they weren't found everywhere. However, LifeWay has turned over a new leaf. They've unveiled a new logo, attempted to redefine their business models, and have remained as an online-only retailer now. Some former LifeWay locations still remain abandoned as a result of their closures in 2019, and these buildings can only be left as a reminder of what used to be and what once was. Unfortunately, this realization is becoming all too familiar among the retail industry. A quote from the LifeWay website in relation to the closure of their brick-and-mortar operations reads as, quote, "As we began to assess the future of LifeWay's brick-and-mortar presence, it became clear a retail chain of any size was unsustainable," end quote. LifeWay ultimately became a victim of the warpath of the pandemic. The company's retail store model seemed to be built on a solid foundation, but never really found the success it needed to continue on. Fortunately, LifeWay still remains as an online company, but the remains of its retail past and its brick-and-mortar army will be nothing but relics of the past. And just like that, a company that had operated over 170 retail locations that sold Christian merchandise and books and other kinds of religious material was gone. As you can see from the pictures here, LifeWay was more than just a store that sold Christian stuff. It honestly was kind of meant to be kind of like a little cozy place. It had chairs and tables and other kinds of places for you to come in and enjoy the atmosphere and just sit down and read the Bible if you wanted to. And it is kind of sad to see a store that really wasn't ever built to have much of a competition die out, because Something that I really couldn't find about this company was that competition was never really an issue for them. It was just the fact that nobody really wanted to go to a LifeWay. Nobody wanted to go to a store and buy a Bible or any other kind of Christian merchandise because you could just order it off of Amazon. I mean, for those that wanted to keep physical Bibles, you could just go online and find one. Some people didn't even go to a name manufacturer for it. They just went to somebody that they trusted or borrowed it from church or however they went about getting it. But we can pretty much say that it wasn't through LifeWay. LifeWay stores weren't throughout all of the US states even. I'm not sure how many exactly, but as we said before, LifeWay had only operated 170 locations, and looking at that compared to other retail stores, 170 isn't a huge number. So it's not a surprise that in the areas that LifeWay didn't operate, it just wasn't known. And in the areas that it did operate, well, it just didn't get the success it needed. Now, in the clips that you see before you of the LifeWay store that's abandoned in Douglasville, Georgia, you can see that the store was pretty well sized. I'm not sure if it was something before LifeWay was here, but as you can see, pretty much most of the store was dedicated to LifeWay, and although we can't really see in the night clip, what you can see from the day clip was that it was honestly decently large. It looks like it would have had space for books and whatever else was inside of these stores, but again, it just never was much to draw people out to buy anything from these stores, and LifeWay themselves noted that sales were just poor. And it honestly is sad. For a store that is dedicated on promoting the works and the books of God and Christian religion and beliefs, it's a sad thing to see it go out in the sense of no one really wanting to buy anything from it. And I'm sure that there were some people who loved these stores and went to them to get their own personal materials, and maybe they were members of churches in the areas that these stores were located, and they wanted to buy things for their churches, and or maybe as just gifts to other members of the churches. I'm sure they had those kind of purposes. But as for me, myself, I've never been to a LifeWay, as I mentioned before, and only when I went to the Douglasville store, or the former location there, had I ever seen one. Otherwise, that was a no for me as well. But I'm sure that these places meant a lot to the people that frequently visited them, the people that managed them, the people that ran them, and it's only a shame to see that no one will ever really have a chance to visit one again. On a corporate level, as I mentioned earlier, LifeWay imploded both of its former headquarter facilities in Nashville, the Draper and the Sullivan Towers. I was able to find a video that someone had published of the LifeWay Draper Tower actually being imploded, and you can see it before you right now. So in the end, LifeWay Christian Stores just didn't do as well as the company had wanted. And in today's world, today's ever so crowded retail world, that's just not a recipe for success. The story of LifeWay Christian Stores is an unfortunate ending, but it's one that started with a relatively simple beginning, with a man that was said to have a gift. And with that gift, he went on to create a branch of stores that was nothing but success to the communities it served. Ones that had been around for many, many years in several states in the US. It was on a principle that just wasn't gonna last. Although LifeWay Christian Stores ending isn't the end of LifeWay itself. LifeWay is actually relatively successful. The company updated its logo in 2021 and has been keeping up with e-commerce. So the ending of its retail stores is just another stepping stone for LifeWay to improve its overall brand. It isn't funded by any sort of fundraising group, but it's actually funded from itself. And although the retail stores helped towards this, eliminating them was better for the company in the long run. So continuing with the lighthearted and motivational theme, LifeWay shutting down its Christian store operations wasn't the worst thing. And honestly, it proves that there's still life left at the end of the tunnel for LifeWay. And with that said, I thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the history of LifeWay Christian Stores as much as I did learning about it. Yes, it was rather interesting to learn about this company and the history of its retail operations. But with that said, until I see you guys in the next feature of Liquidation's Dilemma, in which you never know which company is going to come up then. But until I see you guys then, I thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoyed. And also, be sure to support the Z-Man channel on Twitter and Instagram. I've created accounts for both of them. Links are left in the description, as well as to the first ever premiere of Liquidation's Dilemma featuring Blockbuster video. That is also linked in the description below as well, so you can go check that out if you haven't seen it. But until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for choosing Z-Man. And until I see you guys in the next premiere, take care.